Welcome to this week's GV Bounce. I'm Marc McGowan.
I'm Hannah Driscoll.
And we're going to take you through round 13 of the Goulburn Valley Football League. Starting off with probably the biggest match of the round, Tatura versus Shepparton United. Now, obviously Tut's top of the ladder, United without a win for a month. Huge match, Hannah.
It is a huge match. United, very disappointing loss to Uroa last week. Marc coming out and saying it was probably the flattest he's ever been.
I noticed that as well. Just talking to him, his voice, he seemed really deflated. He's generally a pretty up and about sort of guy, and certainly wasn't the case after last week's result, and probably even going into this one. So they need a confidence boost, don't they? Absolutely.
So they're looking at sort of revamping the midfield, hopefully from the last time they played Tatura. Tatura obviously getting up on that occasion. Do you think that's going to make a bit of a difference this week?
Well, we're only going to find out, aren't we? I mean, he had to try something. Tad is definitely the best on-ball brigade in the comp, and United, it's probably an area they're still developing. They've got some good young kids in there. Matt DeBella, they've got Samuel Poole to come back at some stage. Hasn't played most of this year, but he's definitely one that will slot in the future. And then you've got Sean Hoy. Didn't play a lot against Tat last time. Injured his calf in the first quarter. It was looking really good early. So if they can get a full game out of him, DeBella has a good game. They get Brad Henderson, one of their recruits, he's going through there now. Sam Dawes, these sort of guys. If they can perform, Mark Quarrell's confident he can match them at either end. So that could be the key to the game, in the middle. But you'd have to think Tat's the favourites going into this one, and you just can't go past them. Going on to the next one, Rochi and Uroa. Now, I previewed this one as well. We won't be heading out to this one, but Rochi, apparently they've had a bit of a turning point. Peter had a meeting last Tuesday, going back last week, and sort of a bit of a heart-to-heart about what had been going on at Rochi, and hopefully the turning point. Now, this is a club that you've got a lot of love for, Hannah. Yes. What do you think?
Oh, look, it'd be great to see them turn that form around. They have been disappointing at times this year, and Peter White certainly hasn't shied away from that. Uroa, big win last week against United. Could this be one that they're hunting for to try and get a sixth win on the board? Like, 5 wins for the Magpies this year is a fantastic result, and they've still got another 6 rounds to go.
Well, what I love about David Gleeson, actually, when they had the 5th win, all of us are going, wow, Uroa, massive improvers. And David Gleeson's response is, well, you know what, I don't want 5 wins, I wanted 7 or 8 at this stage. It's great. He's so positive, and he's really raising the bar at the club, and the players are responding. And at the moment, there's still a mathematical chance to play finals. I mean, their percentage is pretty poor. Generally, the other finals contenders are around that 100, 110 mark, whereas Uroa's around 74. So they probably need to be a win ahead of those sides, which is pretty unlikely. And David's conceded that himself. But while there's life, there's hope. So you never know. If they can get another win on, get a bit of a roll on, you just never know what could happen. But look, Uroa's been a surprise, and let's hope they can keep it up. Over to the next one, another really intriguing game. Benalla hosting the Shepparton Swans. Now, what did you make of Shepparton Swans' fade out and implosion against Goulburn last week?
Look, I really saw part of their matches. I saw the sort of first half of the first quarter, and they looked fantastic. Then went over and watched the corresponding netball game. Fantastic game for the Swans. And then by the time I got back over to the football, Goulburn were getting back on top. The Kai supporters were tooting their horn. They were loving it.
7 goals in a row.
It was fantastic. Like, certainly shows what Goulburn will be capable of this season. The Swans devastated by that loss. Understandably, they would have almost seen it as being in the bag, sort of in that stage in that last quarter. So it'd certainly be looking to bounce back. But Benella's, we've said it all year, they're certainly not ones to be taken lightly this year.
And I probably have taken them lightly, to be honest, Hannah. That's probably why I'm sitting last in the tips, to be honest. It's, look, I've actually gone against them again this week. I'm going to take a punt. I think the Shep Swans are playing as good football as just about anyone at the moment. I know they lost to Kai last week, but to even get in that position where they were 36 points up on a side like Kai, who'd won 9 in a row at that stage, now that's 10, but they're playing fantastic football. They welcome back Tyson Sidebottom from his calf injury. And Jarman Impey, the star Murray Bushranger, actually makes his debut for the club after crossing from Shepparton. So, 2 great ins there in particular. Benella's again going to be without Nick Warnock, unless Benella's playing silly buggers at the selection table, and he actually is going to play. But on first inspection, he's not going to play. So I see this as a real danger game for Benalla. They're obviously in a great spot at the moment, sitting in the top 3, but you want to keep winning. You don't want to lose any momentum, but it's going to be a great game. Yeah,
certainly. I backed Benalla. They did me good a couple of weeks ago to put me one ahead of you against Marupna, so I'm going to stick with him, but certainly is one we'll be watching for the result.
Yeah, and over the next one, Goulburn and Shepparton. First, if you look at this game, you go, look, it's going to be a blowout. One side second, the other side sitting on the bottom hasn't had a win, but as David Williams pointed out, Shepparton got within 29 points of Goulburn last time, and that's actually the closest Shepparton's come to a win this year. So he's certainly not underestimating them, but it's pretty unlikely it's going to be a Shep win this week, isn't it?
Yeah, look, it's hard to see Goulburn dropping this game. They've been fantastic in this part of the season. They don't have Newman in at this stage, but yeah, they'll probably be looking to try and get him right, seeing as they're looking so good for finals this year. So, yeah.
It's no disrespect to Shepparton, but I don't think there's any need to rush Paul Newman back this week.
Yeah.
Give him another week. They, on generally level terms, they should win this game
Yeah.
quite comfortably, even without Newman. But look, you never know. You can't underestimate anyone. It's the GV, the best country comp, we think, even though the rankings don't suggest that. So you just never know what Shepparton could produce. We'd love to see them get a win before the end of the year. They don't want to go through a season winless, but look, it's going to be tough for them, no doubt. The next one, Marupna versus Mansfield. Look, Mansfield's probably been the biggest disappointment of the year. I don't think we can shy away from that. They've been close a lot of times, just haven't had the wins.
Yeah.
I mean, looking in this stage, Marupna's in the hunt for finals still. They just can't lose this one, can they?
No, absolutely not. This was a game back in round 6 that Mansfield, I think they were only a couple of kicks away from winning. That was on their home turf.
One of many.
One of many at that point in the season.
Yeah.
This time they're obviously travelling here. Marupna gets back a couple of guys in, including Rowe, so that's a big inclusion for them.
Chris Shermer's out, though.
Chris Shermer hasn't been named. He's chipping his thumb from last week, so that rules him out. But Mansfield also suffering the blow that Michael Hamby is now looks like he'll sit out the rest of the season.
And that's on top of Adam Bashevsky, their captain. He's studying in the US for the rest of the year now, so another huge blow. I mean, the season's over for Mansfield, but they'd love to get a few wins at the end. It's going to make it tough for them now, losing those guys, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that was Fraser Stevenson said, look, finals is off the table, obviously, but just they want to just be competitive for the rest of the season. They've got a couple of tough games to finish off the year, but with those couple of guys out, it obviously makes things a little bit different. Maybe a chance to blood a couple of young guys as they look ahead to next season. Be able to pick the Cats, and I'll stick with them for this one. Yeah,
fair enough. And last game of the round, Seymour versus Echuca. Now, Seymour is well and truly in the race. I mean, I think it's widely thought of that they've had the softest draw out of all the clubs this year, but they've also taken some big scalps. I mean, most recently they beat Rochester a couple of weeks ago at home, and most people expected the Tigers to win that one, but they won that one, and they have a very favourable run home. They've 3 games they'll definitely go in as favourites, counting this one against the Echuca, and they also beat Benalla and they beat the Shep Swans in the first bout between the sides, and they play them also at home at Kings Park. So they're in a great position. They're sitting 6th. It's their position to lose now, and the rest are going to have to chase them down. So do you see the Lions playing finals this year?
I think they'll be borderline. Look, I think Benalla, when they come home again, I think they'll be too good the second time round, but you've got to think they've also got teams like Mansfield and Euroa in that mix, so I think you'd have to be penciling those if you want to be playing finals. But you've got to... Look, and it probably also depends on a little bit on who those other teams fighting play. So, they'll be borderline, but I think I can see them just sneaking in if they continue this form that they're going in, certainly.
Certainly going to be an exciting race to the finish, regardless of who gets that sort of 4th, 5th and 6th spots, which are well and truly up for grabs at the moment. I mean, obviously, Echuca only 1 win for the year, so they're really keen to get a win as well, but it's going to be pretty tough down at Seymour. That brings us to an end for another week. I can't wait for another great round of footy, and I'm sure Hannah feels the same, but it's going to be a great finish to the year, so make sure you go out and have a look this weekend and the rest of the year.